Canelo Alvarez vs Terence Crawford is a fight that has captured the imagination of boxing fans for quite some time. Both fighters are widely considered among the best in the sport, and a potential clash between them would be a true spectacle. However, significant differences in size, style, and career trajectories have made this matchup seem unlikely to some. While many argue that the weight difference alone makes the fight unrealistic, others believe Crawford's extraordinary skill set makes him a legitimate threat even against a physically larger and stronger opponent like Canelo. Canelo Alvarez has firmly established himself as the undisputed super middleweight champion and has even tested himself in the light heavyweight division. Over the course of his career, he has taken on and defeated some of the most dangerous fighters in multiple weight classes. His victories over Gennady Golovkin, Sergey Kovalev, Billy Joe Saunders, and Caleb Plant have cemented his legacy as one of the most accomplished boxers of his generation. Canelo's style is defined by his exceptional counterpunching ability, devastating body shots, and a tactical approach that allows him to adjust to different types of opponents. His capacity to walk down fighters, absorb punishment, and systematically break them down has made him one of the most formidable figures in boxing today. On the other hand, Terence Crawford has built an impressive legacy of his own as the undisputed welterweight champion. His ability to switch stances fluidly, along with his high ring IQ and precision counterpunching, has made him one of the most technically gifted boxers of his era. Crawford has dominated elite competition across multiple divisions, including commanding victories over Errol Spence Jr., Sean Porter, and Kell Brook. His methodical dismantling of Spence was particularly eye-opening, as it demonstrated his ability to adapt and control the pace of a fight against a highly regarded opponent. Crawford's timing, accuracy, and ability to systematically break down his adversaries have led many to believe he could successfully carry these skills into a fight against Canelo, despite the size disparity. The biggest obstacle in this hypothetical matchup is the weight difference. Canelo has competed as high as 175 pounds and has consistently faced physically imposing opponents at super middleweight and light heavyweight. Crawford, on the other hand, has spent the majority of his career between lightweight and welterweight, never competing above 147 pounds. Moving up multiple divisions presents a substantial challenge for any fighter, as it not only affects their speed and stamina but also their ability to absorb punches from naturally bigger opponents. While Crawford could put on weight to match Canelo's division, doing so could potentially impact his speed and mobility, diminishing the very advantages that make him such a special fighter. Historically, fighters who have moved up in weight have experienced mixed results. Some, like Manny Pacquiao and Roy Jones Jr., successfully carried their speed and power to higher weight classes, allowing them to remain effective even against naturally larger opponents. However, others, like Mikey Garcia, struggled when they attempted to compete at a higher division, finding themselves at a significant disadvantage against bigger, stronger fighters. If Crawford were to make the jump, he would have to ensure that he retained his agility and endurance while simultaneously finding a way to deal with Canelo's sheer physicality and punching power. Despite the challenges, there are arguments to be made in favor of Crawford. He is a master strategist who could potentially use his movement, counterpunching, and high-level boxing intelligence to neutralize Canelo's power. Throughout his career, Crawford has demonstrated an uncanny ability to systematically break down his opponents, utilizing his sharp footwork and switching stances to create openings that others struggle to capitalize on. Additionally, Canelo has historically had trouble with highly mobile fighters who use lateral movement and technical skill to disrupt his rhythm. His loss to Dimitri Bivol exemplified this, as Bivol employed a disciplined strategy of movement and straight punches to keep Canelo from finding his rhythm. If Crawford could replicate aspects of that approach while adding his own unique skill set to the equation, he might be able to pose problems for the Mexican superstar. However, a crucial consideration is that Crawford's best wins have come against fighters who were either naturally smaller than him or relatively close to his size. While his dominant victory over Errol Spence Jr. was impressive, Spence does not possess the same physical strength or punching power as Canelo. The question remains whether Crawford's elite technical abilities would hold up against someone with Canelo's sheer force and experience against larger competition. Canelo has faced and conquered smaller, faster fighters before, as seen in his bouts against Amir Khan and Billy Joe Saunders. While both of those fighters had early success in their fights, Canelo was able to methodically wear them down and finish them with his superior power and durability. Beyond the physical and technical aspects of the fight, the financial component also plays a role in determining whether this matchup could become a reality. Canelo is one of the biggest pay-per-view draws in boxing, consistently selling out arenas and generating massive revenue. While Crawford is highly respected within the boxing community, he has not reached the same level of commercial success. For this fight to take place, it would need to be financially lucrative for both parties. There is also the question of whether Canelo would even entertain the idea of fighting Crawford. Historically, he has faced opponents who are either in his natural weight class or naturally bigger. Fighting a much smaller opponent may not be as appealing unless the financial incentives are too great to ignore. Another factor to consider is the promotional and network complications that could arise. Canelo has largely worked with Matchroom Boxing and DAZN, while Crawford has recently aligned himself with PBC after previously being promoted by Top Rank. While cross-promotional fights are possible, they often require extensive negotiations, as was seen in the case of Crawford's bout with Spence. If both fighters were genuinely interested in making this fight happen, these obstacles could potentially be overcome, but they remain a factor that could delay or even prevent the matchup from materializing. Canelo's future plans also play a significant role in whether this fight is likely to happen. He has already expressed interest in facing top super middleweights and light heavyweights, including names like David Benavidez, Artur Beterbiev, and a potential rematch with Dmitry Bivol. These fights offer Canelo the opportunity to further solidify his legacy within his natural weight classes while continuing to challenge himself against elite competition. Meanwhile, Crawford has his own options, including potential fights at junior middleweight or a rematch with Spence. A bout against Jermell Charlo is another possibility, as it would allow Crawford to test himself against a bigger opponent while still remaining within a more manageable weight range. For this fight to be competitive, Crawford would need to enter at his absolute best, with a meticulously crafted strategy that accounts for Canelo's power and ability to cut off the ring. He would have to rely on his superior footwork, angles, and counterpunching to keep Canelo at bay. Given Canelo's proven ability to make mid-fight adjustments, Crawford would need to be prepared to shift tactics as needed in order to maintain control of the fight. His best chance of winning would likely come from staying on the outside, using quick lateral movement, and landing clean, sharp counters while avoiding prolonged exchanges. Canelo, on the other hand, would likely aim to impose his size and strength early in the fight. He would focus on attacking Crawford's body to slow him down and limit his movement, preventing him from executing his usual game plan. Canelo's high guard and ability to slip punches could help him mitigate Crawford's counters, and his power would be a constant threat. If Canelo were able to land clean shots, it would test Crawford's durability in a way that no previous opponent has been able to. Ultimately, the outcome of this fight would hinge on several factors, including how well Crawford carries the additional weight, how effectively he can use his movement to offset Canelo's pressure, and whether Canelo can systematically wear him down over 12 rounds. If Crawford can maintain his speed and stamina while avoiding Canelo's devastating power shots, he stands a chance of outboxing him. However, if Canelo can successfully cut off the ring and land body shots with consistency, it could prove to be a long and punishing night for Crawford. While this matchup is undoubtedly one of the most intriguing theoretical fights in recent years, the weight disparity remains a major obstacle. Crawford possesses the skills to compete with anyone, but stepping up to face one of the most powerful and physically dominant fighters in the sport is an enormous challenge. If the fight were to materialize, it would be a must-watch event that captivates the boxing world, but for now, it remains more of a fantasy matchup than a likely reality.